It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and I. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and me.
Hey guys, this is your girl Paula, the queen from Queens. Don't you just love my theme song? It's the queen from Queens. I want to thank P. Scott Productions. You guys did an amazing job. Just what I wanted. I listen to this every morning to get my day started. It's the queen from Queens. This is a talk show. This is Money Minutes That Matter. Will you call me with financial questions and I'll give you financial answers. On this show, you and I become accountability buddies. We're buddies and we're accountable to each other. We walk from being in debt to maximizing your financial future to optimizing your health. Why is a person talking about health on a financial show? It's what I do. I am a nurse anesthetist. I am a registered nurse licensed to give anesthesia. I've been doing it for more than 20 years. So your health is just as important to me as your wealth. I say it all the time. Your health is your new wealth. If you don't have your health, you don't have control. So what I've been preaching on this show is if you can control your personal economy, then you get to control where you go to school. You get to control where you live. You get to control how you eat. You also get to control what your healthcare needs are and who provides that healthcare need for you. So let's talk about this month. This is October 2020. October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast cancer is real, guys. Breast cancer is a real disease. In our nation, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer this year. 270,000 women will be diagnosed with invasive cancer. What does that mean? It means it requires some kind of surgical intervention, whether it be taking out just that mass or invading into taking out the entire breast, or even involving your lymph nodes and your axilla. Big stuff. It can also metastasize. More than 42,000 women will die alone from breast cancer. Why is that important? We're not an island. We're a part of a family. So what we do today can affect how our family lives tomorrow. So for that reason, I have a caller calling onto my show today who's going to talk to us about breast cancer and the importance of having that routine mammogram and that self-breast examination each month. Before we get into that, we're talking about this book, The 5 Lessons a Millionaire Taught Me About Life and Wealth by Richard Paul Evans. In this book, we read chapter 1, which says, decide to be wealthy. Chapter 2 says, know where your money goes. Chapter 3 says, keep a portion of everything you earn. And he goes on to say, news stories about celebrities declaring bankruptcy or crying to the media about their financial woes never ceases to amaze me. From rock stars pawning their Grammys in order to pay delinquent tax bills to former professional boxers waiting on tables, the list of financial casualties grows. The questions I find myself asking are, why didn't they put some of what they had someplace safe? Why didn't they save the proceeds from just one album, or in case of the boxer, just one title fight? If they had, they'd still be wealthy. And then he goes on to say, it's not just celebrities. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep that makes you rich. The wealthy person pays herself first. The amount you save should be a minimum of 10% of your ongoing salary and 90 to 100% of your side earnings. Researchers show that most American millionaires save between 15 and 20% of their incomes. And then he talks about my favorite subject, the power of compound interest. As simple as interest is to understand, the majority of Americans do not realize the power of compounding interest until it's too late to take full advantage of it. And then he goes on and he gives some tables, but we're not going to go into that. And then he talks about initially putting 10% of your income into your nest egg might require some faith, but it's worth the leap. Prove it to yourself. I've heard it over and over again from those who've tried. We never miss the money we put away. Starting your nest egg. Becoming wealthy is as much a psychological and emotional exercise as a physical one. A sum of money put aside for a future expense. That's what a nest egg is. Then he goes into talking about purchasing precious metals, seeking professional assistance. Don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. As you watch your nest egg grow, you will begin to feel the power that comes from wealth. You will notice things that are within your financial grasp that were not available to you before. With this newfound power, you will be tempted to dip into your nest and steal a few eggs. Resist. Should I first pay off my debts? What to do with current debt is a question that most face as they gain control of their money. Should you first pay off your debt? The unequivocal answer is it depends. The first thing I recommend is that you consolidate your debt with the lowest interest rate possible. With a debt repayment plan in place, consider the amount of interest you're paying and decide if eliminating your debt first is the right thing to do. In most cases, I recommend using 10% of your funds for debt repayment and 10% of your wealth for wealth accumulation. And that's what it says. Keep a portion of what you earn. We have 2 more lessons to go. We'll get to those in the upcoming weeks. But I want you to know that this is our show. Let's get to the callers. I have a really special guest today. Her name is Laura Crandon, and she has a nonprofit called Touch for Life, and it focuses on breast health. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Paula. How are you? Thanks
good.
for having me.
Girl, thank you for being on my show, especially during this month, and I know you're so busy hosting. How have things been going with your nonprofit?
They've been going great. We're getting off the ground and doing a lot of education and having people tell their stories, both as what we call thrivers, not just surviving but thriving, but also supporters of those on a breast cancer journey.
Nice.
As well as educational information about prevention.
And I can tell you, just from my own personal story, I think maybe about 5 years ago, I was having my routine mammogram, and it came back, my left breast having dense fibrous tissue. I was completely alarmed because it said abnormal. And my first thought was, how is this going to affect my family? Am I going to lose a breast? Am I going to require surgery? Am I going to require chemotherapy? Will I die? And is my family prepared for that? So I'm so glad to have you on. Please talk to us about who you are and what you do.
Right. Thank you so much. So I founded Touch for Life, whose mission is to educate and empower women to take an active role in breast health for life. And that was born out of my own journey with breast cancer, having first had annual mammograms, also with dense breasts, but also supplementing that with breast self-exams on a pretty regular basis, pretty much monthly. And 5 months after having an all-clear mammogram, I was in the shower doing my self-exam, and I felt something that was a little different on one side, my right side, and it wasn't the same on the other. So that was an alarm for me to go in and see my OBGYN, which started me on a journey of diagnostics, ultrasounds, biopsy, and ultimately a cancer diagnosis and treatment. And I want to make sure that women, unlike 2 of my really good friends, have a chance at life and high quality life so that there's early detection. And it's so important to have all 3 aspects of your health on a breast health basis, mammograms or the risk appropriate screening, plus self-exams, being aware of your own body, and the annual Well Woman exam that's focused on women's health, often with an OBGYN.
Nice. Nice. And I can tell you, mine started out with self-exams, and I taught my daughters how to self-exam, and I do my annual with my GYN as well. So nothing was ever found in finding this dense fibrous tissue. We then went from there, we went to having a 3D mammogram to having an ultrasound, and they routinely monitored my breast for every 6 months for about 3 years. Ultimately, I had a mammogram done just last week, and it's all negative. Everything is benign. So I'm very cognizant of what can happen and why it happens. And for women of color, the rate of cancer for white women and black women is about the same, except for us, when it's diagnosed, it's typically much more aggressive, and oftentimes the death rate is significantly higher.
42% higher, in fact. Some of that is due to the aggressive nature of the breast cancer, and some of it is because it's a late stage diagnosis, that by the time we're diagnosed, because let's say we haven't had the same level of screenings, it's late.
And that's why I talk about economics and health. I think they're one and the same, because I honestly believe if you can control your personal economy, you can control your health and your healthcare needs. So late diagnosis, oftentimes, just like when you talk about colonoscopies, we're not doing routine screenings. We're not finding time, or maybe our insurances aren't covering the routine mammogram. And with that being said, we may not go in until there's a problem, until there's a dimpling, until there's a foul smell or a discharge. At that point, things are much more aggressive, would you say?
They really are, and that's what happened to a good friend. And we also sometimes delay care because let's be real, there's fear. You talked about it. It's scary. Even doing self-exams, folks have said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't want to look for anything. I don't want to find anything. Yeah. Well, in fact, the best thing to do is to find it and find it early, because there's lots of advances in treatments. You don't always have to have chemo. You don't always have to have radiation. You don't always have to have a mastectomy. There are really a lot of options when you catch it early. Late stage is troublesome, or delay. When you find something that's not quite right, delaying or saving it up for your annual exam is also not the thing to do, because the cancer can continue to grow. There are programs. There's a federally funded program. It's quite unique. It's federally funded, but in each state, women can have a breast and cervical cancer screening for free. And then if anything is found, you are automatically enrolled in Medicaid, which means you would have insurance and you would have coverage for your treatment. So even in the case where you don't currently have insurance, you can still get screened, and you can then subsequently, if you have a diagnosis, get coverage so you don't have the financial exposure.
I love that. You talk about a three-legged stool in managing your breast health. Yes, it starts with really knowing your own body and doing your own self-exam and your own lumps. They're your lumps. Many women have, fibrocystic breasts or different kinds of lumps, and depending on the time of month, if you're still having a cycle, they could be more tender or prominent. But knowing what that is, so that when something comes up that's not quite right, like I noticed, you know that it's different. So that's one, the self-exam and knowing your own breast. The second leg of the stool is the screening part. I just can't emphasize that enough, that a lot of times mammograms catch cancers that are really minute, that wouldn't manifest themselves in a self-exam for a long time. And so getting the right screening at the right age. And the third really is the well-woman exam. That's the annual exam with an OBGYN or a practicing a clinical professional who focuses on women's health and can do both the pelvic and the breast screening. That's the three-legged stool. So I'm so glad to have you on my show, Laura. Thank you. It's my pleasure, Paula. Knowledge is power. It's my mission, too, to help people. Amen. To get early detection, prevention, and then the right treatment, and advocate for themselves. Thank you. I love it. Thank you, too. I appreciate you. We have Sharon from St. Mary's County, Maryland on the line. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Paula. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. How are you?
I am doing great today.
Good, good. What can I do for you?
Okay, I have a little dilemma here. Hope you can help me. My son just got engaged a few months ago, and as they're planning the wedding, get ready for the wedding, I think they are expecting us to help with the wedding. Now, my husband and I are getting up in age. We're getting close to retirement, and we encouraged them to just go to the justice of the peace, do something simple, but they want to have a big wedding, and I know they cannot afford a big wedding on their own, so they're going to be expecting us to help pay for this. We really don't want to have to dip into our retirement. We're getting up in age. We can't afford to be, coming up with all that money for a wedding when they can just do something simple. What do you recommend at this time as finances? What do you think we should do? Should we just go ahead, help them with the wedding, and then hopefully we can make up back the money by the time retirement comes around?
That is an incredible amount of questions. Okay, so how old is your son?
He's 27.
27. Is your son currently working?
Yes, he is.
He's working. And what about his fiance? Is she working?
Yes, she is.
Okay. So the two of them are working. And how old is his fiance?
She's 26.
26. So the two of them are working, but you're thinking that they're expecting you all to pay for or to help with a significant portion of the wedding?
Exactly. Help us with a significant portion.
Okay. Now, how old are you and your husband?
55, 65.
55 and 65. Okay. So you're planning for your retirement. And do you have any smaller children? Any children that are dependent upon you?
Well, we have a younger daughter, but she's working also, lives with us still, but she's still going to school. She's going to grad school. So
Okay.
she has some expenses. That's why she's still at home.
No, that's
and
okay.
then we are helping her along also.
Sure. No, absolutely. So have you guys spoke about a budget for this wedding?
Not yet. Not
Okay.
yet. They just know they want something big.
Okay. So, but if you don't know how much it's going to cost you, maybe they're asking you for a couple of $1,000, $5,000, maybe as large as $10,000 or $20,000. But how will you know unless you ask the question?
Okay.
So
All right. So you said the first thing is go with the budget.
First thing you need to do is you need to talk to your husband. And you guys need to be in agreement, right? Is there some sort of agreement or some kind of fund that you've set aside to pay for weddings for your children? Is that what you guys are looking to do?
No, we did not set aside anything. And to be honest, he's not for helping them. He didn't think it's his responsibility to help them pay for a wedding when they can do something small. But as a mom, I'm thinking maybe I should step in and help out, make life easier for them. So we're on that page right now.
Well, Mom, is this some kind of mom guilt? How are you making it easier for them if they're planning something that they can't afford? Now, have you mapped out your retirement? Are you saving aggressively in your 401k, 403b, Roth IRAs?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a significant amount of income so that you can sustain yourself in 10 to 12 years.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. So your husband's also preparing for retirement.
Yes, but he doesn't have any date in mind right now.
He has no date in mind. Okay. But he's prepared, right? You guys have been saving.
Yes, we are prepared, yes.
Now, are you looking to take any debt into retirement, like your home, cars, credit card, those sorts of things? Will you have any debt going into retirement?
Yes, we do have mortgage, car, and we do have some credit card debt going into retirement.
Wow. So
We're working on hopefully get rid of at least the credit cards before, and the car would be out. We'll probably still have a mortgage going in.
Right. And so you got to take all that stuff into consideration, right? So in preparing for your retirement, when you take debt into your retirement, you're looking at impacting your fixed income. So the question of you being in a situation to help your child pay for his wedding becomes a question of, can you afford it? And if you already have your own debt, then how will you help him to pay for his expenses for this wedding? What are your plans, Mom?
The only thing I can see right now is to go into more debt.
I mean, why would you do
The
that?
best thing to do.
Let's just think about it. If you already have debt, you're looking at going into retirement in 10 years, and your husband's looking to retire much sooner than that, and you're going to have all this fixed debt. Why would you look on taking more debt for someone else's expenses?
Yeah. Okay, I can see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you choose to help him.
I guess I was just thinking from a mom's perspective and not really. Yeah, that's the only reason I'm calling you to get your advice on this.
Well, I appreciate that. But let's just think about it, Mom. I love my kids too. But if I've raised them until the age of 18, maybe help them through college, help them get their lives established, then I think all else is on them. I mean, I can help them if I choose to, but if I can't afford to, then what do you expect of me? How can you expect me to give you $10,000 and I'm living paycheck to paycheck, or if I'm paying a lot of debt? How can you expect that of me? You need to have an honest conversation.
Okay, I see that. So, and in other words, probably encourage them to probably cut back a little on whatever.
No, they don't have to cut back a little. If they're paying for it themselves, then that's a decision that they get to make.
Okay.
Now, I wouldn't encourage them to go to debt. I would strongly encourage them to, at this point, have a cash wedding. So if they're in a position where they can save $10,000 or $15,000 towards their wedding, then that's what they can afford to have. The problem that we have as Americans, we see all the glitz and glamour, but the day after the wedding is when all the bills come. I'm not saying you can't contribute. I'm not saying you can't give a nice gift. If you want to be in a position where you can save up and make some extra money and maybe provide a honeymoon or help with some of the expenses, the flowers, the cars, those sorts of things. But I wouldn't bear the burden of someone else's expenses. These are adults making adult decisions. We have Tatiana from Washington, D.C. calling. Hi, Tatiana.
Hi, Miss Paula. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. What can I do for you today?
Well, I was calling to get your advice on how to prioritize debt during this epidemic that we're going through.
Okay. So you want to prioritize debt. How much debt do you have?
Well, all my debt is student loans, and it's a little bit over $60,000.
Okay, $60,000. When did you finish school, Tatiana?
I believe I finished back in 2011.
What is your degree in?
It's in English. It was in English, started out in journalism, and then switched over.
Okay, so are you working in your degree?
I guess kind of. The job I'm in, it didn't start out in my degree. I basically alternate it so that it fit what I do. So I do a lot of event planning, and now I'm doing some editing as well. So it works out to fit my degree.
You're using an English degree for event planning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Allowed me to travel a little bit. And luckily, before this pandemic started, I let my job know that I can edit as well.
Well, I love that you're flexible enough that you can use your degree and you can broaden your base. So that's awesome, actually, because a lot of people who are now during COVID, we have to pivot. We have to do things a little different from how we did them in the past in order to continue our lifestyle. So I think that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so $60,000 in debt, and you've been out of school since 2011. So almost 10 years you've been out of school. What was your original debt number?
It started out over $100,000 because I had 2 private loans and a federal loan. So I managed to pay off the federal loan and pay down the private one.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you recognize that $100,000 is 6 figures?
Yep.
Okay.
I did.
Because I hear these numbers, right? And then me being a healthcare professional, I hear, graduate level nursing, $200,000, medical school, $250,000, $300,000, $400,000. The highest I've heard so far was $510,000 of student loan debt. So when you hear those numbers, they paralyze me, and I want to know, how do you feel about having that much money outsourced out of your life?
Well, at first, when I finally sat down and figured it out, it was like a huge shocker. I felt like I had an anxiety attack when I was looking at it. There were a couple times when I started crying because it just seemed like so much. It's just because the pandemic started, and with all the jobs closing and everything, I was worried about, should I use the money I saved up intending to pay it down? Should I use it to pay it down, or should I just hold on to it just in case I end up losing my job or something?
No, that's an awesome question. But is your job stable? Are you losing your position?
No, so far it's stable. They assured us that they're not letting anyone go. And
I can tell you, I don't believe that COVID's going to go away anytime soon. I mean, we're in the last quarter of 2020. 2021's coming, and there's no relief in sight. Even if they produce 10 million vaccines between now and the end of the year, which, I'm concerned about phase 3 trials. I still want to see that's happening. I realized that one manufacturer last week pulled out because there were a lot of side effects. So I'm concerned about the trials. I'm concerned that not working just for one facet of our society, but being in a position where it can capture the masses of us and keep us safe. So if they produce 10 million vaccines within now and the end of the year, there are 300 million Americans. We have a lot that we need to be responsible for. So I agree with you. Where do you go with all this? So how much money do you have saved?
I saved up over, I think, $10,000 since the whole COVID thing started.
Okay.
Intending to put that huge lump sum towards the private loan because it would take away a good bit of it.
Okay.
And so I can meet my goal that I set for myself next year.
What's your goal for next year?
Is to finally move out again.
Well, I got to tell you too, right? I mean, I'm just so opinionated because this is my show. I give opinions, and I give my state in all of this. In traveling the world, especially when I go to Asia and I go to some Caribbean countries, it's not unusual to have young adults living with their parents while they get their lives together. So I say be really thankful that you've been in a position with your parents that you could save this amount of money and not have to bear the burden of rent. So I think that's a good idea. So I like that.
Yeah, and it's not so bad because my parents are Jamaicans, and so it's not a huge deal
right.
to move out. It's just me.
No, I understand. So let me tell you how I feel. Now that we've been in COVID for the past 8 months, and we see how it's impacting our everyday lives, I say to you, hold on to your money for now, pay your minimums, amass the money so that you can write a check and be done with it. Is that fair?
Yeah, one big check and just get it all done.
But you don't have to do it now because COVID is real and COVID's not going away. Mm-hmm. It's been here for 10 months. It's not going away. But just keep amassing the money. The interest is going to accrue, and I'm so anti-interest, but the interest is going to accrue. But let's just say 3 months from now, 6 months from now, things are going on an upward swing for our government's economy. Mm-hmm. Then you can write a check and be done with it. We have Giovanna from Charlotte, North Carolina on the line. Hi, Giovanna.
Hi, Paula. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. What can I do for you today?
Okay, so I have started a small business called Bonner's Pudding. I had to start it due to me losing my job in January, and then the pandemic happened in February, around March or so. I started the pudding because I didn't have no income. I was stressing out, trying to figure out what I can do to get income to help pay my bills and just to get around, just money in my pocket. It's been going great. I didn't know that it was going to blow up like it did, but it did. But I feel like I am losing money while I'm making money, if that makes sense.
You're losing money while you're making money. Okay. So you said you have a small business called Vanna's Pudding that's blowing up for you. Congratulations. Did you lose your job because of COVID, or did you lose your job before COVID?
I was was working in a bank. I was an operational manager, and I accidentally deposited my own money into my account. It sounds crazy, but the way I did it, the way the system is basically instead of me taking the money out directly, I kept the money like floating in the system and just did an automatic deposit in my account.
And that's, I'm assuming, illegal or unacceptable?
Yeah, we're not supposed to do that in the banking industry.
So you reported yourself to your manager. They did an investigation, and they determined that you were at fault and that you lost your job?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into the particulars. I don't know if you were a good employee, bad employee, but you said you were in management.
Yeah.
Which means that they recognize that you had something to contribute to the banking institution.
Even before I got let go, I was offered to actually be on the new teleconference call to talk about customer service. So I was a really good employee. Me and my manager did have some ups and downs. So there was a point in time where I felt like he was against me and trying to get me out. So you
gave him that option. He wanted you out. You gave him a reason, and now you're out.
Right.
He won. He won, but now you're winning because you said Vanna's pudding is blowing up. What kind of puddings are you making, Vanna?
I started off with banana pudding. I did want to get creative, so I started strawberry shortcake pudding, or cookies and cream pudding, pineapple pudding, and also I started strawberry shortcake. Yeah, I said strawberry shortcake. I'm sorry, shortcake pudding.
Wow. That's quite impressive. I mean, I want to taste some of Vanna's pudding, so I'm impressed by you. So you said your question is, you don't know if you're gaining money or losing money. Are you doing any profit loss schedules? Are you writing anything down? How much are you investing in each amount of pudding? How much does it cost you to make a container of pudding?
See, I haven't sat down and thought about anything of that.
Right.
I just was just on the go.
Right.
Whatever I need to go to the store and buy it. That's why I feel like I'm not making profit.
Right, sure. And how much does it cost to purchase your pudding?
Jars are $10 to $12. The pans range from $20 to $30. $20 to
$30. And it's doing really well.
Yeah.
So let me say this to you. You need to start documenting where your money's going. Just like the book that we're reading, The 5 Things a Millionaire Taught Me About Wealth, is you need to know where your money's going. Every dollar that you put out and every dollar that comes in needs to be documented. So if you go to the grocery store and it costs you $200 to, let's say, to make 10 jars, and you're selling it at $10, so 10 times 10 is $100, but it's costing you $200, then you're losing 50%.
Right.
But if you go to the grocery store and you spend $200 and you're able to make, let's say, 30 jars out of that amount of money, then 30 times 10 is 300. Then you just made 50%. Let's go back to the rudimentary level. If I bought 5 boxes of X, and it cost me this much, and I was able to disseminate and distribute that out to make 10 boxes of something else, and it pays for itself, then everything else is extra. So you need to start with that. This is always the hardest part for me. It's always difficult to say goodbye because I can talk to my callers all day. If I am giving you information and is benefiting you and your family, then I'm accomplishing my task. Right. So this isn't just a hit and run. I don't just touch callers for 5 to 7 minutes and say, go on with your life. I actually delve back into this. I call them back. I reach out to them. I share my resources. So we're accountable. This is our show. This show is primarily sponsored by EAJ1023radio.com. The music is absolutely amazing. You can get your groove on. It's the Queen from Queens. I love you. Remember, faith conquers fear. Have an amazing day.
It's the Queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and I.
Roberts Targets Financial is not a certified professional service of finances, brokers, accountants, taxes, insurance, or legal. We research the advice that is given to provide the most accurate, up-to-date information. This information is designed to work in conjunction with your information. All information is suggestions. We recommend that you consult with a trusted licensed professional for your specific decisions. All information is for general purposes. We are not liable for any losses or gains. We accept no responsibility for any decisions made after participating on or from listening to the show or from Roberts Targets Financials. If you like this episode, hit the subscribe button.